I've got the best job. I get to sit and listen to people's stories about their lives all day and help them make meaning out of it. As a gay Mormon therapist and researcher, I've sat with hundreds of people and heard different stories about their lives. And today I'd like to share with you some of the insights that I've gained from my work with LGBT and Mormon clients. But I'm going to start out, since I'm a bit of an academic, with a quiz for you. So pull out a smartphone, a piece of paper, something to write down with, and I'd like you to take this test with me. So I'm going to read out the questions, and you want to rate them on a scale of 1 to 6. So number 1, I'm disturbed when people can tell that I'm gay. 2, gay individuals tend to flaunt their sexuality inappropriately. 3, sometimes I get upset when I think about being attracted to men, or women, or both, however you identify. 4, it is important for me to control who knows about my homosexuality. And 5, most gay individuals prefer anonymous sexual encounters. So go ahead and take a minute and tally up your score. You should have a total somewhere between 6 and 30. And we're going to group you into categories. So I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands, but if you were between 6 and 10, we're going to put you in the low category. Between 10 and 20, moderate, 20 and 30, high, and 30 and 40, you really need to go back and learn your math skills, because you shouldn't be more than 30. So this is a measure of internalized homonegativity, which is best described as negative attitudes and affects toward homosexuality in other persons and toward homosexual features in oneself. Some of you might still be asking, is this a good thing, bad thing? It's a bad thing, if you're still wondering. And we see it all the time in a lot of different ways. I don't know if any of you, like me, have ever been dating someone, had a boyfriend, a partner, and talked about him as my friend, my roommate, my person that I'm hanging out with. Or if there's a lot of talk right now in the media and in our communities about parenting and families. And there's a lot of belief that gay parents are not capable of raising psychologically healthy children, or at least as I've talked to friends, that I wouldn't want to get married because I don't feel like I could raise kids as well in a heterosexual marriage, when the research flat out doesn't support that. Or maybe, like me, you've had some hesitancy around displaying affection in public, holding hands, kissing, not doing that because of negative beliefs about what it would mean about you or ways that others would perceive you. So the natural question about this is, does it really matter? Does it matter if I hold hands with my partner in public? Does it matter if I call him my friend, if that's easier? And my answer to you is, actually, it matters quite a bit. Internalized homonegativity is linked with a bunch of really negative psychological outcomes: increased depression, anxiety, sexual identity distress, lower quality of life. Essentially, the more that we have these internalized negative beliefs about what it means to be gay, the more distress that we're going to be in. Now, if you're straight and you have internalized negative beliefs about being gay, it's not a huge deal. It doesn't affect you. But if you're gay and you do, you're setting yourself up for a whole lot of conflict. I'd like to tell you a story about a client that I worked with who we're going to call Patrick. Patrick was a gay man. He'd been out for about 2 years. And by the time that he came to my office for therapy, he wasn't coming so much for sexual identity things as he was for more life relationship issues. As I was talking with Patrick and gathering information, we talked about all areas of his life, and one of the areas that became pertinent pretty quickly was his spirituality. One of his taglines was F God, and he talked about being raised Catholic and the ways that he hated religion and his family for that. As our therapy progressed, it became pretty apparent that Patrick's zealousness about hating religion was actually causing him a lot of pain and anguish in pretty unhealthy ways in his life. Internalized spiritual negativity is similar to internalized homonegativity, except around spiritual concerns. So we could define that as internalized negative affects and attitudes towards spiritual features in others or spiritual beliefs and practices in oneself. Now, this is different than not believing. If you don't believe, you're not going to have any conflict because you don't believe. Internalized spiritual negativity is when at the core you do have a spirituality, a faith, but you hold at the same time negative beliefs about what it means to be a spiritual person. Allow me to illustrate. Whoops. Maybe you, like me, have told people that you're gay, bi, trans, Mormon, and people stop and look like you have this third eye, a tail, and maybe some horns to go with it. Really confused. That reaction is representing their internalized negative beliefs about spirituality and the compatibility of spirituality and sexuality. Or there was a woman I met in the airport between Salt Lake City and Miami, and I was talking to her. I told her that I was gay, that I was Mormon, and she was like, whoa, hold up. You mean you're Mormon? And she spent the next half hour convincing me all of the reasons why being Mormon was not a healthy, viable option for me. Why I should really simply leave that effing church behind and go live my life. Also representing internalized negative beliefs about what it means to be a spiritual person. Similar to homophobia, it doesn't matter so much if you're not spiritual. If you have negative beliefs about what it means to be spiritual, it's not going to affect you. However, if you do have a core spirituality, it's going to cause a lot of internal conflict and guilt, perhaps a loss of social support. A lot of members of our community, upon coming out, will withdraw themselves pretty sharply from the Mormon church, which means that they end up losing their friends, a lot of family, a lot of social support, and what one of my friends calls the queer bounce, where right after coming out ensues a period of intense sexual activity with anyone and everyone because you haven't been doing that for a while. I'm not against having sex, but if it's coming from a place of opposition to one's spirituality, it can be psychologically damaging. So in light of this, what do we do about it? I think to really understand what needs to be done, it comes back to the concept of shame. Both internalized homonegativity and spiritual negativity form their effects on the shame that they induce of being expressed. Shame is the feeling that I am wrong, I am bad, whereas guilt says that what I did is wrong or what I did is bad. Shame leads us to essentially hide and cover up what we do. So living our lives out loud is the antidote to shame and to these two things. The way to do that is identify, challenge, and embrace. So, for example, imagine that you have a boyfriend, girlfriend, hopefully happy thoughts are coming to people's heads, and you're in public and you want to hold their hand, but you realize that you're not reaching for their hand because of something. The first steps would be to recognize what you're doing and then to stop and say, hey, why am I not doing this? What is stopping me from grabbing his hand, from kissing him? And if you are not able to find a good reason, chances are it's coming from a place of internalized homonegativity. And so the solution would be to embrace it, to do just the opposite. Grab his hand, be like, okay, I know this is super uncomfortable, but I'm making a statement to me about who I am and what is important. Same thing could be said with using the words, my friend. On the spiritual side, it could be having beliefs that don't really make sense. Many of us are Mormons or former Mormons and still keep random Mormon practices as part of what we do. Maybe holding family home evening. Maybe we still don't drink coffee, even though we no longer believe in the word of wisdom. Maybe we still go to church, even though we're not sure if God exists. That is okay. All of that is coming from a core spirituality. So to challenge internalized spiritual negativity would involve similarly identifying the things that you want to do, you're doing, challenging the reasons for not doing them, and then embracing them. It might look like finding your own way to worship God through meditation, through mindfulness. It might look like engaging in some of those Mormon practices that you no longer believe in, simply because it's what you want to do. In conclusion, I believe that as we live our lives out loud and reduce the effects of shame in our life, we'll be able to diminish the importance of internalized homonegativity and spiritual negativity and really learn to flourish in our lives. Thank you.